I still remember the way the air changed when she walked in. Not colder. Not warmer. Just different, like the world had decided to hold its breath for a second, waiting to see what she'd do next. Her name was Hannah, and she wasn't supposed to be there that late. I was finishing up at the studio, half the lights off, dust drifting in the lamplight, when I heard her heels on the floorboards. Slow, measured, the kind of walk that announces nothing and yet fills the whole room. "Still here?" she asked, her voice low even. I turned. "I could ask you the same thing." She smiled a little. Not with her mouth, with her eyes, the kind that made you forget what you were supposed to say next. She was older, though that word doesn't fit her. She carried time like a well-kept secret. The faint lines near her eyes didn't hide the warmth in them, they deepened it. Her hair was tied loosely, a strand falling against her cheek. I wanted to reach out and move it, but my hand stayed frozen against the table. She crossed the room, glancing at the sketches I'd left scattered everywhere. "You draw people like you're afraid they'll disappear," she said quietly. I swallowed. "Maybe I am." She looked at me for a long second, and I felt it, the silence between us stretch, hum, then settle. She was close enough that I could smell her perfume, faint jasmine and rain. There was no reason for her to touch me. None at all. But she did. Her hand came up slowly, almost hesitantly, like she was asking permission from the air. Fingers brushed my jaw, then rested against my face. Her touch wasn't light, it lingered. Her thumb traced just below my eye, and for a second, I thought she might say something. But she didn't. That silence, it said everything she couldn't. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The room felt smaller. My heart louder. And for that suspended heartbeat, it was as if we both forgot who we were supposed to be, student, mentor, stranger, whatever labels made it easier to avoid what was happening. Her eyes flicked to my lips, just for a moment, then back to mine. And then she stepped back. "I shouldn't have done that," she said, almost to herself. But the way her hand trembled as she lowered it told another story. I tried to find words, any words, but my voice wouldn't work. The air between us still carried the warmth of her palm. She turned, reaching for her bag, pretending to be calm. "Forget that, okay?" "Too late," I whispered. She froze. I saw the way her shoulders lifted, not in surprise, but in something deeper. Something she'd been trying not to feel. She turned halfway, her face half in shadow, half in the glow of the desk lamp. "You don't know what you're saying," she said softly. "Maybe not," I admitted. "But you do." The quiet after that wasn't awkward, it was alive. Every second held the weight of what neither of us wanted to admit. Her phone buzzed on the table, sharp and out of place. She reached for it, fingers shaking slightly. One glance at the screen, and her expression shifted. Something unspoken crossed her face, a mix of regret and decision. She looked at me one last time, her lips parted as if she might say something, but then she only exhaled, long and quiet. The door opened. Cold air drifted in. And before she stepped out, she said, barely above a whisper, "Don't wait for me." But her eyes, they said the opposite. Then she was gone. And I was left standing there, with the echo of her touch still burning against my skin. It had been 5 days since she said, "Don't wait for me." And I hadn't. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. But every night, I still found myself at the studio, pretending to work, surrounded by sketches I didn't finish, faces that all ended up looking like hers. The faint curve of her mouth, the focus in her eyes. She had become a pattern I couldn't stop tracing. When Hannah finally came back, it was as if nothing had happened. She walked in during the afternoon, sunlight cutting through the window and catching the edge of her scarf. She gave me that polite smile, the kind people wear when they're trying to erase something. "You've been busy," she said, glancing at the papers. "Trying to be," I answered. Her gaze lingered a moment longer than necessary. She nodded, moved past me, and placed her bag on the desk. The scent of her perfume reached me again, faint, the same jasmine that had haunted my sleep. For a while, we just worked in silence. But there was a current underneath, like standing near a storm you could feel before you heard. I broke it first. You used to be married, right? She paused. Her pencil hovered midair. That's a strange question. I just remember you mentioning it once. Her hand dropped. A long time ago, she said, her voice quieter now. He left. Different lives, different wants. Sometimes that happens. I nodded, not sure what to say. There was a faint tremor in her tone that didn't match the calm expression she wore. I wanted to ask more, but didn't. And you? She asked suddenly. Me? Anyone waiting for you? I laughed under my breath. No one's waiting. She tilted her head. That's a shame. Something in the way she said it made my throat tighten. I didn't look up, just kept sketching lines that didn't connect. Maybe not, I said softly. When I finally did glance at her, she was already watching me, steady, unreadable. The air between us felt thick again. She came closer to look at my drawing. Too close. Her sleeve brushed against my arm. Her breath touched my neck as she leaned over the page. You draw differently when you're tired, she murmured. Maybe because I think too much. Her hand came to rest lightly on my shoulder. A small thing, but it felt like a confession. You shouldn't, she said. Thinking ruins good instincts. Her fingers stayed there longer than they should have. I didn't move. Neither did she. It was only when she exhaled, a slow, shaky breath that brushed against my skin, that I felt her hand leave. We stood in the quiet, caught between impulse and restraint. Hannah, I said finally. She looked at me, eyes dark, guarded, but soft around the edges. This, whatever it is, I whispered. You feel it too, don't you? She didn't answer. She only reached out, fingertips grazing the edge of my sleeve, then pulled back as if the contact burned. Then she smiled, faint and sad. Don't ask questions you already know the answer to. And before I could say anything, she turned off the light. The room sank into dusk, and the space between us glowed with everything we weren't ready to admit. The rain came without warning that night. Sheets of it, drumming against the studio windows, blurring everything outside. I was locking up when she appeared at the door, soaked, breathless, holding her scarf against her neck. Power's out at home, she said, her hair clinging to her face. Mind if I wait here until it calms down? I stepped aside. You know I don't. She smiled, small but real this time. Drops of water slid down from her hair, catching the dim light. She looked softer like that. Human. Tired. Too close. I found a towel and handed it to her. Our fingers brushed, just enough for the world to slow. Thanks, she murmured, eyes not leaving mine. I watched her dry her hair, trying not to stare, failing completely. Her blouse was damp, clinging in ways that made breathing difficult. I turned away, forcing my hands into my pockets. Long day? I asked. She laughed lightly. Long week. And it's only Tuesday. Her voice filled the room in a way the rain couldn't. I wanted to say something back, something ordinary, but she was already walking closer, drawn to the sketch on my desk. You kept drawing me, she said softly. I froze. It's not, it is. She traced a finger over the charcoal outline of her face. Why? I swallowed hard. Because I couldn't forget how you looked that night. The air between us changed again, tighter, sharper. She turned slowly, eyes searching mine. For a moment, I thought she'd walk away. Instead, she took a step closer. You shouldn't say things like that, she whispered. Why not? Because it makes it harder to pretend. The sound of rain filled the silence that followed. I could hear her breathing. Could feel the heat of her body even before she moved again, closer this time, until I could see the pulse at her throat. She lifted a hand, hesitated, then touched my collarbone. Just a light press of her fingertips. I felt her tremble. Hannah, I said, my voice unsteady. If you're scared, you don't have to. I'm not scared, she said too quickly. A sharp knock at the door cut her off. We both froze. The sound came again. Hannah? You in there? It was Min, her assistant. Her eyes widened. She grabbed my wrist, pulling me behind one of the shelves stacked with canvases. I could feel her heartbeat against my arm, quick and uneven. Stay quiet, she whispered, her breath brushing against my cheek. We stood there, barely breathing, her body pressed close to mine. Every second felt longer than it should. Min knocked once more, waited, then muttered something and left. Only when the footsteps faded did Hannah exhale. She turned toward me, and we were too close. Her face inches from mine, her lips parted. Neither of us moved. The air was heavy with what we almost did. I could see the conflict in her, guilt fighting the pull. This isn't supposed to happen, she whispered. Then stop it, I said quietly. Her gaze flicked down, lingered, then she stepped back, trembling. I can't. But the way her fingers brushed mine as she passed, light, deliberate, told me she didn't really want to. And as she stood by the door, drenched in the fading stormlight, I knew we were past pretending. For 3 days after the storm, she didn't come. No calls, no messages, no trace. And I tried not to care, I tried hard. But the truth is, when she finally appeared at the studio door again, every bit of that pretending cracked. She looked tired. Not just physically, something deeper, like she hadn't slept right since that night. Can we talk? She asked. I nodded. But I didn't move. Neither did she. The silence stretched until it hurt. Then she said, You make it difficult to stay away. I laughed once quietly. Then don't. Her eyes lifted sharply, searching mine for something, maybe restraint, maybe reason. She didn't find it. She stepped closer. You don't understand what that means, she said, voice low. I shouldn't even be here. But you are, I said. Her breath caught, just slightly. I'm twice your age. Not tonight, you're not. That stopped her, just long enough for the air to shift again. The hum between us was back, louder this time, restless. She reached for the edge of the table, as if needing something solid. I've ruined enough things in my life, she said softly. I can't, you're not ruining anything, I interrupted. You're the first thing that's made sense in a long time. Her hand tightened on the table. The faint tremor in her fingers betrayed the calm in her voice. You don't know what you're saying. I moved closer, slow enough to give her time to stop me. She didn't. Her perfume, that quiet jasmine, filled the space between us again. I reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. My fingers grazed her skin, soft, warm, alive. She closed her eyes. Just for a second. You shouldn't, she whispered. Then tell me to stop. Her lips parted, but no words came. Only a quiet, uneven breath. I felt it against my throat. Hannah, I said, my voice barely steady. I can't keep pretending this is nothing. Her eyes opened, and I saw everything she'd been holding back. Fear. Want. Guilt. The war she'd been fighting silently. You think this is simple? She asked, her voice trembling now. You think I can just… I don't think, I said. I feel it. Every time you look at me, every time you don't. She stared at me, one heartbeat, two, then stepped closer until her forehead nearly touched mine. I hate that you're right, she whispered. My hand found her waist. Hers, my chest. It wasn't a kiss. Not yet. But it was close enough that we could taste the decision between us. The air felt electric, the kind of silence that trembles before breaking. Her fingers brushed the back of my neck. My pulse jumped. Then, a sharp vibration. Her phone lit up on the table. A name flashed across the screen. Her ex-husband's name. She froze. The world snapped back. The air thinned. I have to go, she whispered. Hannah. She pulled away, every movement pained, deliberate, like she was peeling herself out of something she didn't want to leave. Before stepping out, she turned back, her voice barely a breath. If you ever touch me again, I won't be able to stop. And then she was gone, leaving the room full of thunder, even though the storm had long since passed. She didn't come the next day. Or the one after that. By the third, I told myself it was over, that her words had meant what they sounded like. But when I walked into the studio that evening, she was already there. No warning. No message. Just Hannah, standing by the window with her coat still on, staring out at the street. I used your key, she said without turning around. I hope that's okay. My pulse stuttered. It's always okay. She turned then, slower than usual, as if bracing for something. Her eyes looked darker, heavier. I need to tell you something before I lose the nerve. I nodded. But she didn't speak. Not yet. She moved closer, the soft rustle of her coat the only sound. Then she said it, low and uneven. Someone saw us that night. The words hit like a door slamming shut. What? My assistant, Min. She came back. She saw enough. The silence that followed felt alive, pulsing between us. What did she say? Nothing. Not to me. But she told the director. Hannah's jaw tightened. Now there are questions about us. About me. I stepped closer, instinctively, but she held up a hand, shaking slightly. Don't. Hannah, I can't lose everything I've worked for, she said, voice breaking. Not over this. Her eyes flicked up to mine, desperate, torn. You don't understand. I'm supposed to be the one who knows better. I hesitated, feeling my throat go dry. You think I wanted this to happen? You think I planned any of it? No, she said, softer now. That's what makes it worse. She turned away, pressing her palm against the window. The glass fogged beneath her touch. I moved behind her, close, but not touching. My reflection blurred beside hers. If I could stop wanting you, I said quietly, I would have done it weeks ago. Her shoulders trembled. You shouldn't say that. Why not? You already know it. She closed her eyes. That's not the point. Then what is? She turned suddenly, too fast, and I almost collided with her. Her breath hitched. Our faces were inches apart. The point, she whispered, is that I told them it was you who wouldn't leave me alone. It took a moment for the words to register. The room went still. You lied. She looked away. I had to. If they thought it was me, Hannah, I said, my voice breaking, you didn't have to protect your reputation by destroying mine. Her lips parted, but no words came. A single tear slipped down, catching the faint light. She stepped closer, maybe to explain, maybe to apologize, but her hand stopped midway, trembling between us. I thought I could control it, she whispered. Us. I was wrong. Her voice cracked, soft as silk tearing. I reached out, fingers brushing the back of her hand. She didn't pull away. I don't care who knows anymore, I said. But you do. So tell me now, is this the last time? Her breath shook as she whispered. It can't be. And then she leaned forward, her forehead resting against my chest, the smallest surrender, and the biggest truth. Outside, the city lights flickered against the rain-streaked window, and somewhere in that reflection, a decision was already being made, one that neither of us could take back. The storm had returned that night, like it had been waiting for us to finally decide. The power flickered in the studio, shadows dancing across the half-finished sketches, across the two of us, too close, too silent. She stood by the table, coat half off, breath unsteady. I was leaning against the wall, trying to look anywhere but at her. Every time I tried to speak, the words tangled in my throat. She broke the silence first. They called me in today, she said. The director. HR, questions. About you. I swallowed hard. So it's true then. She nodded once. They think I crossed a line. I wanted to laugh, but it came out hollow. Funny. I thought I was the one chasing you. Her eyes met mine, tired, furious, afraid. You think this is easy for me? You think I don't wake up every day wondering when I'll ruin everything? She stepped closer. You were supposed to be safe, she whispered. You made me feel young again, and that terrified me. The distance between us disappeared. I could see the raindrops trembling on her lashes. I never asked you to be safe, I said. Her hand lifted, slow, unsure, and rested against my chest. My heart beat so hard I thought she might pull away, but she didn't. I told myself it was just attention, she said quietly. A phase. But then you looked at me that night, and I realized it wasn't attention I wanted. It was you. I caught her wrist, holding her hand there, against me. Then stop fighting it. She shook her head. If we do this, everything changes. Everything already has. The air grew heavier. The sound of the rain blurred into something rhythmic, like a heartbeat echoing through the room. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes were wide, wet, uncertain. And I saw it, the moment she stopped pretending she could walk away. I took a step forward. She didn't move back. My hand found her jaw, thumb brushing the corner of her mouth. She closed her eyes, exhaling like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. You're shaking, I whispered. So are you. Her voice cracked, barely audible. For a heartbeat, we hovered there, every word, every excuse, dissolving between us. This can't be right, she said, voice trembling. Then tell me it's wrong, I murmured. She didn't. Instead, she leaned in until our foreheads touched. No space, no air, just the quiet thrum of two people who'd run out of ways to deny what they were already living. I felt her tears before I saw them. She smiled through them, small, broken, real. I'm scared, she said. I know, I whispered. Me too. Her hands slid up my arms, stopping at my shoulders. We stood there, suspended, caught between what we wanted and what we knew it would cost. And then, finally, she pulled back just enough to look at me. Her voice was barely a breath. If I stay, she said, there's no going back. I met her gaze. Then don't go back. The storm outside roared louder, shaking the windows, as if the world itself wanted to warn us. But neither of us moved. We just stayed there, so close the air between us felt alive, both knowing the choice had already been made long before either of us spoke it. Morning came slower than usual, soft, pale lights spilling across the studio floor, tracing the edges of the sketches, the chairs, the quiet space that had held too many unsaid things. Hannah was there, sitting by the window, coat folded beside her. She hadn't left. I stood for a while, watching her reflection in the glass, the faint smile, the calm that had finally replaced the storm. It felt strange, how peaceful the silence was now. Not the kind that hides things. The kind that holds them. She turned her head slightly. You're awake, she said softly. Didn't really sleep. Me either. We both smiled at that, tired, relieved, still not sure what to do next. For a long while, we didn't speak. Just listened to the city waking up outside, traffic murmuring, footsteps echoing, rain dripping off the awning. Ordinary sounds that felt almost sacred now. Finally, she said, they suspended me. I walked over and sat beside her. Because of us? She nodded. For now. They want time to review boundaries. Her tone was light, but her eyes told the truth. She was scared. I reached out, covering her hand with mine. I'm sorry. She looked down at our hands, then back up. Don't be. For once, I did something because I wanted to. That quiet honesty hit harder than anything else. I turned my palm, intertwining my fingers with hers. Her skin was cool, delicate, but steady. You still think this was a mistake? I asked. She shook her head. No. Just complicated. Complicated doesn't scare me anymore. She laughed, soft, almost disbelieving. You're too young to say things like that. Maybe, I said. But you make me want to mean them. Her eyes softened. She leaned in, close enough that her hair brushed my cheek. You really don't care what people think, do you? Only when it's you. I said quietly. She exhaled, a sound between a sigh and a laugh, then rested her forehead against mine. The world outside kept moving, cars, voices, everything ordinary. But inside, it felt like time had finally caught up and decided to stop running. Her thumb brushed along my hand. "We'll have to be careful," she said. "I know. You'll get tired of waiting." I smiled. "You've already made me wait long enough." That earned a small laugh, the kind that sounded like sunlight breaking through clouds. For a moment, neither of us said anything. We just sat there, side by side, fingers laced together, the warmth between us enough to make the whole world outside irrelevant. She turned to me, eyes quiet but sure. "You really aren't going anywhere, are you? Not unless you tell me to. I'm done telling you what to do." Her hand came up, tracing the edge of my jaw, slow and certain, the same way she had that first night, only now there was no hesitation. Just knowing. And when she leaned forward and pressed her lips gently to my forehead, it felt less like a beginning or an end, and more like a promise to stop running from either. We stayed there until the light turned golden, until the rain had fully stopped. And for once, neither of us looked away. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?